Mesechta Menochos Daf Ayin Aleph Amar Aleph. We're starting from the last line on Ayin Aleph Amar Ayin Amid Beis. Amalei Rabbi Lezer. So the Gemara is now talking about going to talk about the Omer being mater. Only even if the tefillah is only mashlish, it's rooted. The mere fact that it rooted has a din like a peda that the Omer can be mater already. Before that, heißt es nicht kein Peres, nicht da was mater sein. So when it's mashish, after the Omer darf man warten, you have to wait till the next time, the next year around. Zog the Gemara. Amalei Rabbi Lezer said Rabbi Yoshia the Dorei. Why the Dorei? There's two Rabbi Yoshias. There's Rabbi Yoshia that was called Rabbi Yoshia Agadol Zarkashi. And that's not the Rabbi Yoshia we're talking about here. We're talking about Rabbi Yoshia the Amira. He was an Amira, he wasn't Rabbi Yoshia Agadol.
The other one was
Atana. So the Gemara, he said to Rabbi Yoshia of his generation, do not sit down on your feet until you explain me this Mishnah.
We had that expression before?
Yes, we did. But, not with Rabbi Yoshia. But from where do we know that the Oima is mater? The mere fact that it rooted, that's already considered as a peda. How do we know that the Oima is mater? It didn't grow, but it rooted in the ground. So we say the rooting in the ground has a din like a peda. So it's a peda, so you need now the Oima to be mater.
But there's nothing to be
But the shadish, even though it's going to grow later and you don't see the peda now, but the mere fact that it rooted, it gave it the chshivas of a peda, and the Oima is mater. In fact, you want to know, how do we know that? How do we know that the Oima can be mater at such a premature stage when it's just rooting? So you want to receive Aviv. It says Aviv, the first Aviv, what?
Means spring.
Spring, and it means the first ear that ripens, first wheat that ripens. Lav meklal, is it or not? The Ika de Lav Aviv. Which one?
Chedesh
Aviv, yeah. So it says, what do we have to use for the Minchas Ha'ima Aviv? So the Mincha Ha'ima has to be Aviv. But the Oima, so you can be Medayik. But the Oima to be Mata doesn't have to be Aviv. So if it doesn't have to be Aviv, so that means even if it rooted in the ground, the Oima is Mata. So Gemara, who says, maybe the Pshat is the Lav Aviv, that it's not over the Olam, the Ayel Shlish. Maybe you're right. It doesn't have to be fully ripe as a mincha, but the Oima to be mat has to be a third. Who says it's just the rooting in the carcass? Because that's the normal amount that they consider.
Why do you have that? Something has to be in a third.
That's he uses the lashon. That's where it's considered a roi already, to be called a fruit. So only Shmuel says, you know where I know it from? Because it says, by the cutting of the Oima, it says, Mehachel cher meish bakama, from the beginning, when they cut with a sickle, they stay in the ketvua, bakama means the standing tvua. So that's what he's talking about, the ktsida. The ktsida has to be at a level, when it's ripe, that you can use a sickle. Lav miklal, the lav bar chomesh, is mashma, that the Oima is mata, even something that's not as a comma roy to cut, says the Gemara. So the Gemara slugs up. No, maybe the lav bar chomesh means ulaylam shachas. Not that it grew a third. I'll say when it's shachas, which is a meichel behema, which is very small, not even a shlish. Even if it didn't grow, and really shachas is good enough. But it has to be grown as long as the behema can eat it. So maybe the Oima is not matter just for the rooting. It has to be at least the level of a shachas. Rabbi Yitzchak said he brought a new mucker. He says good because we slugged up. He says you brought it from this that it says mahachol chemesh. That's what's needed for that has to be ruya lehi kotzer. That's what you use for the minchas ha'ima, but for the Oima to be mata, it doesn't even have to be royally kotzer. So I would have thought even the hishish. So he says no. Maybe we can learn that the Oima is mata only the laba chomish, something that's not royally kotzer with a sickle for Michael Adam, meaning that it didn't grow a shlish, ulaylam shachas, but you need at least the growth of a shachas, which is less than a shlish, but it's growth. It's not just rooted. But Rabbi Yitzchak says we learn out the Torah calls Eidim that from which you cut for the Eima comma. The Torah calls this Eidim comma stay in the tvua lab mekal the lab bar comma. So from here we can learn out that that's for the Eima you need kamar. Comma. But standing tvua. But for the Eima to be mata something, you don't need comma. So I would think rooting is enough. Says Laba comma ulaylamagam. Says maybe you're right. You don't need that it should be standing tall like for the like by the mincha, but it doesn't mean rooting. It means agam. Agam means that you can bend it over into two. It's taka very small, like when you make a bow, you can bend it over such a small piece and make a bow. So the same thing with the tvua, you can bend it over as long as you can fold it over. Maybe that's what the pshat is, that it includes that the oim is mata that. Says Gemara El Amar Rava says a different mucker. It says Asher Tiza, that the oim is mata the new tvua mishazriya, from when it's planted. So from when it's planted is mashma. Well, Asher Tiza b'sod. Yes. Oh, okay. Asher Tiza b'soda is come to tell you that he can by the shtei alechem that the first ripe from the cutting of the first ripe are the ones that you have to bring for the bikurim, and we learn out from this that it says Asher Tiza that even it didn't grow yet; it's just planted. You plant it into the ground. So if you from when you planted it, the oim is already mater, right? Okay, the base mizak is that Ed Koch was gay. They said. So what did they say when he died? They said, "I'm gay in the head." As gestorben ist geworden, a gay in the head. Aber Papa said to Rava, if so. If we learn out from this pasuk that the tefua becomes mutter even mishas riyah, so afagav hishish nami. So even if it didn't root into the ground, you're saying that the oima is mata even from right when you plant. When you plant, it didn't even root, so maybe it's even from there. So our Papa answered to our Papa, Seidoni. Seidoni is Malashon Seid. Talmidei Chachamim, there's one shot, it says, I have the nickname Seidoni. Why? Because the Eibishter is Megalit Zezei Seides. If when they are Amelin und Yegeim Batera, Amolkem, the Kutte Teire steht, as einer is harvet in Teire by talking, and bleibt in Takash in the fee, back in the Hilf mit time. Why? On the Shama geht up, Aruf Lamaila, and then gets the Terutzim because he elevated himself in this world. And von der Eibishter schickt him auf Zirik like a matana mit Teretz. Or Sedani. So the Seid Hashem L'Reyev, it says, that the Eibishter gives the Seides to those that fear him.
Sedani meint Talmud Chacham.
Yeah. So steht, was meint Talmud Chacham? So steht, as Shem Sheniglem Aleim Seides Hashem Be'emek Havanas HaTorah. Kasher Heim Amelem Yegeim Be'Havanas Be'Techiras Hashem is Yemos the Seid Hashem L'Reyev. That's what Rashi says. A zweite Pshat, Soidani, is a mensch was macht beer. He makes beer. So it says that Papa sold beer. Papa was a reich Haid. And he sold beer. And he knew the Soidis, how to make the beer. So it says, Basoda Ksiv, Ashatiza Basoda. So the word, it says not Ashatiza, it says also Basoda. So Ashatiza is coming to tell you that you don't need the tvua to grow, that the oima should be mata. You don't have to have it to grow.
It should be a komo.
Ubasoda tells you, obviously, muzayin rooted in there. It's a zayin just planting. The word asher, so there's two limudim, asher tiza and basoda. Asher tiza tells you don't need growth for the oima to mata zayin. The basoda zogt uns, Aber von deswegen, has to be mushrish in the karka. Sagt the Mishnah, Koitzin, you could cut before the cutting of the Eima, Beis HaShlachim. Those tfuah that grow in a Beis HaShlachim Azar feld that needs irrigation, it doesn't come from the rain. So they would make canals of water that would go around the fields and overflow it, so it water the fields. Yeah. But it didn't come from rain.
Is it indoors?
So what?
Is it indoors?
Outside.
It's outside?
But Beis HaShlachim is a field that is not watered from the rain.
What if you mean
So they're not.
What happened? The rain? You go there, you come the rain.
Yeah, you have in the desert or
like Nilos.
water inside?
like Nilas, yeah, when it overflows. You're right. But there's such places where it doesn't rain, so they have irrigation. It's called irrigation.
So where are they getting the water?
They get it from ditches, from the lakes, or from the mountains, waterfalls, or whatever, and they make ditches that go around the field, and the water's in the whole field. So he says those are not such good tfuah. So that you didn't use Sheba Mokim. They were in the valleys, so it wasn't really used
to grow
for the mincha because it wasn't good. It wasn't
the water wasn't good enough.
No, the tfuah it didn't grow as well, so they didn't use it for the mincha. So therefore, they were allowed to cut even before the time of cutting the ima. So he says you're allowed, but to make a harima, to make a pile, to tie them up and make a pile out of it, that you're not allowed. Because he might come to eat it. So that's why they asked it. Anshe Yerichai, the people of Yerichai, that their fields were Beis HaShlach Moshe Ba'amokim. They had the fields that didn't grow from the rain water. So Kaitzin, they would cut it for even before the time for cutting the Eima. They cut it. And B'Ritzei Chachamim, it was with the Haskama from the Chachamim, because it's not a Yisraisa, because it wasn't right to be used for the carbon of the Eima. So we had nothing to worry. So we allowed them to cut it even before the Zman of Ktziras Eima. When they made piles out of it, he said, Shaloi B'Ritzei Chachamim. The Rabbanan asked it because they might come to eat it. And for eating, there's no heta. There's no hefset. You could hold on to it. There by the fields, there's a hefset if you don't cut it. If it grows and you let it all rot, you have to cut it and you have to put it away. But you're not going to start piling them up. Das nicht. There's no reason for it. And by piling it up, you might come to eat it. It's like by chametz. Chametz be'en, if it's on top, you still have to try to get it, because Taisa says so it could fall down, and if it falls down, anyway, so but the Chacham said if you did it, if you were goydish it and piled it up, they didn't make machad, they didn't protest. Shachs klinchke groz that the behemoths ate it, so you're allowed to cut that. Says the Gemara, because the Ktsira of Shach is for a Maich Be'ema, it's not considered Ktsira. It's not called Ktsira, so therefore it's not like you cut before the time of the Eima. Rabbi Yehuda had gesagt, when is mutter to cut the Shachs leBehema before the Eima? Bezman shemaschil ad shalei hevi shlish. If he started to cut it before it grew a shlish, so then you're allowed to cut the Shachas. Because before it grows a shlish and you cut it, so
this grass grows bigger also. It's not
sure, but the shachas you cut it when it's short and it grows right away again. And it's every 30 days. The Gemara says in Bab Mitzvah we had it.
Why can't you cut it? It's behemoths.
Because once it's a shlish, it's called ktsira, and you're not allowed to be koitzer. Also, that's according to Rabbi Yehuda. If it's a shlish, it's called ktsira, and you're not allowed to be koitzer from the new tfuah before the time of the cutting the Eima. Oh, but Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Shimon argues, he says, since it's like you said, it's a Michael Behema, so even though it grew a shlish, well, it's a Michael Behema, it's not called Ktsira. Sagt the Mishnah weiter, the more Ktsiras that are mutter to do before the Zman Ktsira, it says, V'koitzin nepnei netiyas. You're allowed to cut the Eima because of netiyas, meaning young trees. So the young trees, the tvua around it, you're allowed to cut that tvua because that tvua you cannot use for the mincha because it was weakened from the trees. The trees took out the nutrition, and keeping the tvua there will weaken the trees. So you're allowed to cut it. Mipnei beis havel.
And you can eat it?
He doesn't know. You can't eat new tvua, no. But he says you're allowed to cut it because you can't use it for the ima anyway. So you don't consider it as a real tvua, and you're cutting it for the eitzim to make the eitzim even
So
stronger.
it's not considered chodesh.
It's called chadash, but you're allowed to cut it. There's an exception. If when they came back from the Lavaya, they would have to give a sudas havra. A sudas havra means that they weren't allowed to make their own food right on the day of the Naklin Kvura.
People have to prepare it.
So people have to prepare. A shachan prepares it. So they would go to the field and they would sit down and eat there. So, but in the field there was no space, so they would have to cut the grass to make a place for them to sit.
down.
You're allowed to do that.
They had the bagels over there.
They had the bagels, okay. Lox and bagels. Yep. Mipnei bitul beis hamedesh, or there was no room in the beis hamedesh, so there were so many talmidim they had to put them outside. Outside, so they cut the grass, cut the tvor, so there should be place for the talmidim to sit. Zok the Gemara, even though it's mutter to cut lo yasa isan kriches, but once you cut the tvor, don't make it into bundles and tie them. Don't do that. Avo manichem tzvasim. You could leave them as a pile, but don't tie them. That you could. Zog the Mishnah, mitzvahs ha'imam lovim in akoma. The mitzvah of the imam should come from the standing tvor. Only if you cut standing. Towards the end of the Mishnah. On Ayin Aleph Hamad Aleph, towards the end of the Mishnah. Okay, mitzvah sa'ima. You have the mitzvahs, the word mitzvah sa'ima is like 4 lines from the end of the Mishnah. Mitzvah, 4 lines from the bottom of the Mishnah. Mitzvah sa'ima. Love min hakama. You have to cut l'shem ha'ima, and it's only through cutting standing barley, and you have to have in mind l'shem ha'ima. Loi matzah. What if he didn't find kama? He didn't find standing tvua. So then Yahweh, he brings min hamarim. He brings it from those tvua that was already cut, from the piles that were already cut. Mitzvah say love min alach. The mitzvah is to take from the juices, is still the moist one. Loi matzah. If he didn't find Yavish, then he takes from the dry and he's making chila almo the best. You have to go for the best. Mitzvah say liktzer balayla. The mitzvah is before you count the svira. Cut first the tvor and then do the svira. That's the mitzvah. Nikseba yoim kosher.
Like Mayim Shalom.
Yeah. Okay. And nikseba, but there you can't count the svira till you first cut it. And nikseba yoim, if you cut it by day, like if you said svira, you forgot to count svira by night. So by day you could still count the svira on a bracha. Here also nikseba yoim, if you did it by yoim. But it's taka kosher. You probably can't count svira at that time because svira has to be shleimus de keteg. You have to when you count. Shalom de keteg is from the night before. So therefore, by day.
Would you do otherwise if you didn't cut it in the daytime? You have
so
to
you cut it by day. You cut it by
So, what does he say?
So the first time.
Kosher, otherwise would be what?
So then you have to cut it the next time, but then you can't. It's not considered.
So you can't eat a whole day.
It's not considered as. You missed out on the
missed
mitzvah.
a day, you'd have to do
Then
it.
you missed.
Must cut.
It's like you missed the day of the Oima. You can't make a bracha. That's what it's considered.
So every day is a mitzvah of Oima.
Yeah. So it's how machlekes if all the svira is one mitzvah, and that's why if you miss a day, so it's missing in the whole mitzvah. Because it's considered as one mitzvah. If you would say every day it's its own mitzvah, even if you missed a day, then the next day should be up to count. But it's not. It seems like it's all the days are one mitzvah. Okay, and v'deichas Shabbos overrides the Shabbos, meaning that you could be koitza the tvua afilei of Shabbos when it comes to the Oima. Tanya, we learned.
What would be the problem?
You're doing the malacha b'Shabbos.
Not like on Shabbos, you know.
Tanya, we learned Nabraisa. Rabbi Yamin says, "Kos v'echad Oima." In one pasuk it says uktsartem es ktsira. It means when you come to v'chisivoy alaretz v'chulu, when it says uktsartem es ktsira, you will cut v'avesem es oima, and you will bring the oima. So from this pasuk he mentions first ktsira, right, before the oima. It says uktsartem es ktsira, and then v'avesem es oima. So that means the ktsira comes first, and then you actually bring the oima. So it's mashma you're allowed to cut even before the time of the Ema. Uksiv, and then in the Hemshech of the Pasuk it says, Reishis Ktirchem, the first cutting ala Kohen goes to the Kohen. It's mashma that the Ema has to be the first time you cut it. You can't have any cutting before that. It has to be the first cut.
Okay.
So it says, okay, so how does this make sense? It says, Gemara, Malkim Shata Mevi, Mi Malkim Shata Mevi, from the type of tvua that you use for the oima, iyata koitza. If it's such a type of tvua that's shaykh to use for the oima, you're not allowed to have any cutting before. It has to be the first cutting. Mimakim shiyata maybe, but if it's from such tvua like the tvua from the Beis Hashlochim, we said it's not quality tvua, so you don't use for the oima. So in such a case, iyata koitza, you can cut even before the ktzitzah oima. That's how it makes sense. So the chiluk will be, when aren't you allowed to cut? If it's such tvua, quality tvua, that is used for the minchas ha'ima, then you're not allowed to have any cutting. The first cutting has to be for the ha'ima. But if it's from a second quality, not good quality, the best quality for the ha'ima, then you can have a ktsira before. In fact, the Gemara ha'ima say that the stira between the two psukim is memin shata maybe. Let's answer the stira like this: from the min tvua that you can bring, which is the min? What do we use? Which out of the chameshes minei dogan do we use for the oima? So'idim. So we say so'idim iyata koitzer. You're not allowed to cut anything. The first cut by so'idim has to be for the oima. Aber mimin shiyata maybe from the other four minei dogan, like the chitim, the oat, the rye, right? So then, ataketzi you can cut before, because the only min that we use for the aima is the sa'im. Yeah. So why can we answer the stira that way? Says Gemara, nah. You need all five minei dogan is used for the aima. Ahu loy matzis amrit. You cannot say this drasha that means only sa'im and nicht the andere fear. Why? Because Mishum Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan made a Gzeda Shava. It says Reish is by Chala, and it says Reish is by Oima. We had it yesterday. And the Reish is by Chala, we said, Chala, all five Minei Dogan is Chayv and Chala. And it says Reish is by Oima, the same word, teaches us by Oima, all five are used for the Oima.
Is that Gzeda Shava?
It's like Gzeda Shava, yeah. Mamash Gzeda Shava, Reish Reish. So we learned in the Mishnah, Anshe Yerichai. They would cut the tfuah with the will of the chachamim. It wasn't against the chachamim. But if when they piled it up, it was against the will of the chachamim. The Mishnah ended off with loy michu biyadim. They didn't protest. They said it's all right. Who's the man that speaks about that? Rabbanim protest. They didn't protest. It says Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda was the one that said it. Says Rabbi Yehuda say that when they cut the tfuah, it was with the haskama from the chachamim. But Tanya, when you learn faket, yeah, but he says faket, it was against the haskama. But Tanya, we learned them abraisa. She should the bottom of Anchi Richai. Shlo yishem b'tzein chachamim, shlo b'tzein chachamim. 6 things the people of Yerichai did. 3 they did with the will of the chachamim. 3 they did against. These are the 3 they did with the Tzin Chacham. They were allowed to take the decal trees, the young ones, and mix it with the old decal trees. Just that the young decal trees should have more strength. So they grafted it together. So they didn't consider it as a malacha. So they said because if the chatzos and Pesach, you're not allowed to do any malacha. Even a haircut. If you didn't take a haircut, it's big. At a Pesach. Yeah. At a Pesach. So if he didn't take a haircut, if the chatzos is a big shaila, if you can take a haircut, you're not allowed to do any malacha after it. So the Gemara, huh?
Getting it's not a malacha.
Yeah, but some of the barber can give you. It's a malacha. Yeah. Okay, I hear you. But with a guy, you have to be careful. You have to have mirror small sides. He shouldn't kill you. As I say, one second. So these are okay. Makivim, Shma. They would read Shma and V'hafta without a hefsek in between. And Shema Yisrael as Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. That's a regular Lamaila. Hashem is Echad. V'hafta, the gate for mention of the Kabbalah itself not mentioned. There's supposed to be a hefsek. We have the hefsek Baruch Shein, but they would put it together. He says they didn't. The Chacham said it's all right. And it says they cut the tfuah of their fields, the Beis Hashachim, before the Aima, and that also was B'tzein Chachamim. Ve'elu shaloi B'tzein Chachamim, and these are the three things they did shaloi B'tzein Chachamim. Goitchin lefnei Aima, they would pile up the tfuah before the Aima. Umatinim gamziyoi shel hagdash shel charu v'shel shikma. They took the carob trees. And that the fathers were magdish. The father was magdish, the trunk of the trees. So, and then the trunk of the trees had branches. So the kids would take the branches for themselves. They weren't allowed to because they tied it. The father only was magdish, the geza, the trunk of the tree. But the branches that came out of that wasn't hagdish, so they took it for themselves. Chacham said, no, we don't allow that. Also, Peitz and Pratzis, they say and they would break through the walls and the rooftops and orchards that the aniyim should come and be able to eat from the potatoes that fell from the tree. And that was why? Because they'll go on the tree and tear it. So the Chacham didn't want that they should make a passageway on Shabbos for them to be able to go ahead and take the potatoes because they might do a malach on Shabbos. If all these cases are b'tzein chachamim, you hate kol adam eisen kain. Why did you? They said anshe yerichai. We gave them a het to haskama, but everyone else not. Why everyone else not? Everybody should. If it's mutter lechatchila, what's the problem? It says only all 6 things were against the will of the chachamim. On 3, the chacham said we still protest. Don't do it. If they did it, they protested. And on 3, they didn't. These are the 3 they didn't make a protest. They said the malacha of grafting the 2 trees to give it more strength. They said, okay, don't do it. It's against Haskama, but we're not protesting. Or they put the Shema and Hafta together without a hefsek. They said, don't do it, but if you do it, we're not protesting. And they cut and they gathered piles before the Eima. So here it says also, and in the Mishnah it says, B'tzein Chachamim, Zakasha. These are the ones that the Chacham did protest. Matinim gamziyoi shel hegdesh shel charav shel shikma. Those the children who came with the taina that the father was only magdish the geza, the trunk, but not the branches. So they took the branches for themselves. They weren't allowed. So there they were meicha. Don't touch it. Upeitz and pratzis b'gagaysim v'adisayim kedei lachem nashar la'aniyim v'shnei v'atzedim v'shabbos v'yam teim. And this that they made openings for the aniyim to come on Shabbos and Yom Tov to take the fruits that fell from the tree. The Chacham said, "Don't do it," and they were meicha because of it. Mamish excited, they might go up on the tree and tear it off. And they umich b'yadam. You're not allowed to give. You're not allowed to make payers to leave the corners of the field for the aniyim. Payer is only by such tfuah that you could store it and keep for a while. Yerek, vegetables, there's no din payer because it spoils right away. But they made it into payer. But the problem is, the Chacham said, don't do it. Because if you make into payer, the din by payer is you're part of a meiser. The aniyim are part of a meiser by payer. Oh, but doesn't this came payer? They made payer from Yerek. So they'll menamen payer. We don't have to give meiser.
Yerek, you also give meiser?
Yerek, you have to give meiser because it's not payer. So even if they claim it, if they'll claim this is payer for you aniyim to take the corner of the Yerek, so the Chacham made a gzeira, they're going to take this, thinking it's payer, and they won't give meiser, and they're supposed to give meiser. It's not payer.
You meiser from the Yerek or that from the
You have to meiser. you have to give Ma'isa Mid'Haraisa on Yerek.
And yet,
Yeah, and there's no such a thing. Even if you want to make it into Payah, there's no such a thing, Payah by Yerek. But if you're going to tell the Aniyim it's Payah, they're not going to give Ma'isa. And that's why the Chacham protest. But we're back to the Kasha. It says that we learn the Pshat is Loi Goichin. If those that, or Loi Goichin, it's against the Shalei B'Tzein Chachamim, and the Mishnah said, Goichin B'Tzein Chachamim. Says the Gemara. Well, it's, okay. The timer says the Gemara, according to you, I'll answer you with a question. Is it Shisha? Shiva Ava. According to you, if you make the cheshbon, it was 7, unless you take out the word kaitzin. So he says, Ella, how is it 6? Sami mekan ktsira, take out the ktsira, meaning the ktsira was b'tzein chachamim, and the 6 that you said shalei b'tzein chachamim wasn't counting ktsira, because if you count ktsira, it will be 7. And the Mishnah says there's only 6. Okay, Zok the Mishnah, kaitz l'shachs machal behema. You cut the shachas, and you give it to the behemoth. Nan has we learned in the Mishnah. These are a hefsek. Every field has to have payah. If there's a hefsek in the field and it makes it like 2 fields, you can't give 1 payah for both fields, even if it's next to each other. If there's a separation somehow, then it's each field needs its separate payah. Zok the Gemara, what's considered as a separation to the field? Hanachal. A river that goes through the 2 fields, it makes it 2 fields. A nachal is also hard land. Nachal can mean in a emek, in a valley, it's hard to land, and it's hard, nothing grows there. That vacant land makes a hefsek between 2 fields. Vashlulis is like big puddles. And if there's a big puddle between 2 fields, so then it's 2 fields. V'derech hayochid, a derech of 4 ames, that you made a path of 4 ames, separates the 2 fields. V'derech harabim, 16 ames between the 2 fields, or more for sure. Ushvil harabim, ushvil hayochid, hakavui b'meis hachamim, b'meis hachamim. A shvil is less choshiv than a derech. And he says over here, a shvil tzor minahu min haderech is even narrower than a derech. So in order that the shvil should be considered as a separation, it has to be able to be used, sign in winter and sign in the summer. Habur is a field that you have a piece of land that was not plowed, not planted.
So it's like a
It's a plain land. It's I don't know the English word for
A
it.
fallow field.
Fallow field. Oh, perfect. Vahanir. You see, we got the English guy here.
He's reading it.
It doesn't matter. He's smart. He knows how to read.
Smart that happens tomorrow.
That you know how to read is enough.
Right.
Vahanir is a field that's plowed, but it's not planted. V'zera acher, or you have, let's say, 2 tvur fields that are growing wheat, and in the middle you have a piece of land that are growing lentils. So that piece of land that's growing lentils between the 2 separates the 2 fields. Okay, or you cut in one area between the 2 fields, you cut the small grass for the behema. Mafsik makes it a hefsik. Those are the words of Ameya, and it's 2 separate fields. Shachas is not mafsik because he considers it as the beginning of the cutting. The only time it's going to be a hefsik after you cut it, you went and you plowed it. Oh, then it's going to be a hefsik. That says the ktsiras of shachas is not considered as a ktsira by payab, and therefore it's not going to be a separation. He follows the shita of Rab Shimon by Oima. The Omer that Rab Shimon said that the cutting before the Oima, he says you can cut shachas before the Oima, and you can give the behemoths to eat even if they grew a third. So he holds that the ktsira is not a ktsira even after a third. So therefore, the cutting. So that's why he holds like Rab Meir, who says by peah cutting shachas, right, is nishkin ktsira. It's not a field. It's like a field that you're not using. There's no ktsira. So it's hefsek.
It is a hefsek.
It is hefsek. Alma kasava. Yeah, alma kasava. So we see kol every cutting l'shachas, la ktsira, he's not considered as a ktsira. Yosef Rava sat down, he said this Shmuel of Rabbi Yechlen, that Rabbi Meir holds like Rabbi Shimon, Eisvei Ravach, Rav Huna, asked on Rava, okay, you're saying it's not a ktsira when he cuts shachas. How about he didn't cut it? Achalak chogov, the grasshoppers came and abgefressen a part of the middle of the field. Oy kisimu. Now you have a hefsek between the two fields. Oy kisimu and the mullen, or you had the ants that ate up the ants eat from the bottom. The grasshoppers eat from the top. Or the ruach came, a big wind, and knocked off the tvua. Hakol made him that only if chodash, if the chagavim and the malam made it, and he plowed it, then mafsik. But if he didn't plow, it's not mafsik.
Because it was regular. It was part of the regular field.
Oh,
it wasn't
so
that person didn't do it.
Hakol made him. Come on. Who is made? What did you say? Hakol made him. You're saying Rab Meir. Rab Meir says in the Mishnah by Peah, somebody who cuts shaches is a hefsek. It's not a ktsira. Now, if you're going to say that the Mishnah is talking about shaloi shlish, our Mishnah says, why is it not a ktsira? Because it's less than a shlish. Good. So the Baraisa that says you need charisha in order to make a hefsek, the im chorash in loy chorash loy is b'shekvar hevi shlish. There it's talking about as a shlish. So therefore, in order to be a hefsek, there was a ktsira here. So in order to show there's a hefsek between the two fields, you need a charisha. But our Mishnah that said it's not a ktsira because it was less than a shlish. But if you can say our Mishnah says that you're allowed to be koitza, even more than a while it says more than a shlish, a meir, you learn that's the shita. So hashdo. So I'm going to ask you, ma hasam the ktsira, ma the how Mishnah it's not considered as a ktsira when the person is cutting it. Rab Meir lo yishma ktsira. Rab Meir said it's not considered ktsira. Hachalei kol shkein. Over here in our case, by the Peah, where the Chagab made it and the Mullah made it, a person didn't even cut it. So for sure it should be a hefsek. It shouldn't be a ktsira. Ella says the Yamara, Rabbi Meir.
It should be
For sure not a ktsira, and it should be a hefsek. Why do you say only if there's a charish it's going to be a hefsek? Says Yamara, Rabbi Meir. Only Rabbi Meir says that ktsira shachas is not ktsira by Peah b'shitz Rabbi Yehuda Amar. Mora. He said like Rabbi Yehuda. The Amar bisman shehischil achlei hevi shlish. If it started to grow, he cut it before it grew a shlish. Then it's good. Aval in hischil hevi shlish, then it's aser. But if he cut it after it's a shlish, then he says it's going to be aser. Says the Gemara, the shamat. So now it works out perfect. The two braises. The Braisa says you don't need a charisha. It's talking about it's under a shlish, and the Braisa that says you need a charisha. It's over a shlish. Even the Shemat Rabbi Yehuda, in fact, Gemara say that Rabbi Yehuda is mechalk between tfuah that was brought with a shlish to a tfuah that wasn't a shlish lebehema. That chilik is only for behema. La'adam hishamet lei. But what's if it was cut for a person to eat? Will we say the same chilik?
shlish and more than less than.
Let's say he cut it in order to eat it roasted, right? Or to eat it roasted. So in the Mishnah Peah, he says stam, somebody who he's koitza shachas, right? Before it grew a shlish. So there he was talking about maybe it was only for a behema. What? But over there it doesn't say that. In the Mishnah it doesn't say for behema. Our Mishnah says for behema. By Peah it doesn't say for behema, it says stam. It's mashma that even if he cut it for a person. So it's a raya that the Meir doesn't hold like Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda could have said it only for behema. Says Gemara in Cain, so the Gemara proves that according to Rabbi Yehuda, cutting the shachas for a person is considered as ksida. So you're going to have 3 tanoim. I think we're going to have to stop here.